Hola, welcome. This is our first episode of our topical discussions where we're going to pick up topic. We're going to pick a game, two games each, and then we're going to go around talking about the game we've picked and why we think it deserves to fit into this topic. So the topic for this week is going to be six games, two games each of games that you may have missed, games that all hidden gems, good games that probably don't get enough recognition. What I'll say off from the start is if you're tuning in, you've never listened to our channel before, we can sometimes go into a bit of depth. We can take our time talking about these things. If you just want to know what the games are, check the description. We'll put the list of the games. Have a look. They're going to be there for you. If you want to listen to us talk a bit more detail about what games and why we think whether you should try them out, carry on listening. The other thing I will say as well is that this is quite a subjective thing. So obviously, hidden gems, games you missed, however you want to say it. Some people might disagree. Some people might not think the games are good. Some people might think that they're not hidden gems because they're too popular. Whatever. We've decided that these games fit into this category, and it's our personal opinion. So let's move forward. We'll start with Roots. What is the first game that you've decided doesn't get enough recognition?
My game, I guess, and maybe it's just from a personal standpoint because it flew under my radar was Static, and this is a PlayStation VR exclusive. It came out in 2017 and goes for $20. I got it, picked it up on sale for $6 through the PlayStation Plus. One reason to have PlayStation Plus. I think it's a hidden gem. I didn't even know. I heard a couple people talking about this. I know Wes was talking about it. Justin was talking about it. I didn't know what the hell it was. I know it was a puzzle game, so I was initially kind of hesitant to try it, but I really was kind of blown away by this game. It's kind of in a sense, an escape the room game, and I don't know if you guys, or if you think that it is, Wes. If correct me if I'm wrong, but it's you're in one particular area and you've got to solve a puzzle, and then you'll go to sleep, and then you'll wake up and you'll be in another area, and you'll have to solve a different puzzle. Now, the main mechanics is where this game is cool. Your hands are stuck in this box. You wake up and you're kind of like drugged or something, and you've got this box on your hand, and they do it so well. However they've done this game, I kind of felt claustrophobic a couple times. Like, I want to get my hands out of this fucking box, and I look down and my hand, I'm not, and you're looking at the box and your hand's not in there, but and so you're trying to solve these puzzles to get your hands out of the box. And the sad part is, at least for me so far, is I just keep getting to more puzzles. I want my hands out of that box. But it's so the immersion is amazing. Puzzles are hard, but they're not impossible. The one thing I will say is there's no instruction manual for this. Like, even from the very beginning, you're like kind of looking at this and you've got your hands in there, and all you can do is just start pushing your buttons to figure out. And you start to look around and realize that different things are happening when you push different buttons. And so you kind of figure out the puzzles as you go. And so what I like about that is you kind of end up you start out on the same level as everybody else. I was watching PSVR on Parole and video about it, and he was talking about the same thing. It's like everybody starts on an even keel, right? Like, even if you're good at puzzles, you have to intuitively figure them out, and each puzzle is different. So it doesn't really build on the others. So I thought it was really cool, and the satisfaction you get when you solve that puzzle is amazing. And I guess the biggest thing for me, and this is just personal, because I have such a disdain for puzzle games lately, I enjoyed it so much that it shocked me. So yeah, I definitely think it's definitely at least to me, a hidden gem. Flew under my radar. Wes, I know for a fact you played it because I heard you tell me about it, but what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. This is a great game. In my opinion, it's one of the best pure puzzlers I've ever played, and so many good cool things about this game. First of all, the way that they use the controller, it's probably the best example I can think of being having hand presence in a VR game from a gamepad. You know, normally to get hand presence in a VR game, you have to have two separate tracked motion controllers. But the one tracked gamepad works because your hands are in these trap boxes. And the boxes themselves have all sorts of little buttons and levers and things all over them. And each thing corresponds to a button on the controller. And there's a lot of buttons on the DualShock 4, and this game uses all of them. And the way you progress through the game, it's pretty simple at first. Like you said, there's no instruction. It's all trial and error. And the puzzles are pretty basic. But as you progress through the games, each box will have more than one puzzle on it. So you'll work through it in stages. Like you'll finally solve one puzzle, and then another portion of the box will open up, and you'll have to solve that one. As far as the difficulty goes, it's hard enough to be challenging, but it's not so hard that it makes you want to quit very often. I did get stuck a few times on a few of the later puzzles, but they're hard enough so that you feel like you've accomplished something when you get out of it. Mm-hmm. But again, they're not so hard that you never feel like it's unfair. After you figure it out, you're like, oh, I should have seen it all along. But definitely a load of fun, very intuitive controls, very ingenious use of the gamepad, and a very high quality game that you can get on sale a lot of the time. I think you can get this game pretty frequently for $7 on the PSN store, and it's a steal for that. So absolutely a hidden gem, one of the best puzzle games I've ever played, and yeah, top notch. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, Wes, why don't you give us your first hidden gem?
All right. Anybody that knows me have probably heard me harping on this more than once. And the game I want to talk about is Polybius. This is a game that's been out for a very long time. It was initially on PlayStation VR, and just this past year was brought over to the Steam storefront, although I don't know if they've added in HTC Vive support yet. I think it's on Steam, but it only supports Oculus Rift unless it's been updated. But anyway, this game doesn't get the credit it deserves because, I mean, by looking at it, it looks very basic on a flat screen. It looks like an old arcade-style game that isn't very impressive. It doesn't have a great thumbnail. It doesn't have a great trailer. So I think a lot of people overlook it. And in addition to that, this game never, ever, ever, ever goes on sale. It's $15.49 on PlayStation Store. I don't know what it is on Steam, but I can't imagine it's very different from that. But man, this is one of the most amazing games that I've ever played. There's 50 levels, and it appears that it's an arcade sim, but it's not. This game is a concentration game. This game, the whole basis of it is that it's going to throw as much visual and audio stimulus at you as it can, and you have to try to box all of that out and remain focused on the path ahead. So even though it seems like you're shooting and that's the object of the game, basically the way you play it is you just hold the fire button down and go. The whole thing's about where you steer your ship. And at first, it's easy to see the gates that you're supposed to fly through. But every time you successfully make it through one of those gates, the game gets faster and you accelerate. And it gets faster and faster and faster. And this may be the fastest game I've ever played. It gets so fast that it's hard to keep up with it. And the faster you go, the more visual stimuli or enemies or whatever you want to call it get introduced into the screen, into your field of view, which makes it hard to see the visual cues. And what I mean by visual cues is the shape of the gates change as you progress through the game. they start to look different, and you don't know what they are at first. You have to find them, and when you get going so fast, it's hard to just see them coming. But after a while, you get in this zone where you start to notice that there are visual cues in the distance that tell you when the gate's coming. So you might die 30 times and never notice it. But eventually you start to get in this zone with the visuals and the music, and then you start to notice maybe there'll be a flicker of light off in the distance that tell you, okay, here comes the gate, and it's right there. So basically what you're trying to get into is a kind of a Zen state in this game where you're just zoned in on it and you're not thinking, you're just playing. And I assure you, if you put any time to this game, you will get into that state where you're just zoned in on it, and it's more like the game is playing you rather than you playing the game. It's a load of fun. There's 50 levels, and it's a steal at the $15 price point. I cannot recommend it enough to anyone who has access to either a PlayStation VR or a PC VR. Roots, you've played this one, haven't you? What did you think about it?
Oh, I love it. And I will say it's the both game, obviously PSVR and it's a controller game. And it's, the thing I like about this the most is what I like about Audica and a lot of other games like that is controlling the uncontrollable, doing something that you feel like is, oh my fucking Lord, what is going on in this game? And you're still somehow alive. This game, literally, as I was playing, I think I did a Let's Play of it. And I couldn't see my ship anymore. And like so much shit was going on. I was like, oh my God, I can't see my ship. I can't see my ship. But I was still going through shit and I was still staying alive. And I was like, how the hell is this? Because I guess I was so zoned in. And exactly what you said, Wes, like you play it so many times on a level, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I never noticed that cue that there's something's coming up. And even if I see the cue, I have to decide, can I go through this thing because I'm moving so fast? It's if you barely get it off a bit, you're going to bounce off of it. But if you get going fast enough, you will get going through so fast that you will go through some shit. So they give you an incentive to go faster. And I've never done anything this fast. I would be interested to try it on the PlayStation VR or on the Index at 120 hertz when I picked that up at the end of August, because I know the PSVR has 120 hertz mode, correct, Wes?
Yeah, that's right. And what you were saying is correct. These cues are there, but after you get zoned in, you don't even know that they're there. You just kind of play, and it works, and you don't know why. Looking at it from a bystander point of view, you would think that it's unfair. But I've played through all 50 levels of this game, and there's only one level in it that I felt was unfair. And I think it was maybe level 43, and it very much was just luck of the draw to get through the first part of it, because the enemies are coming from off screen and it's random, and there's no way to dodge it that I could see. Maybe there's a cue there I didn't pick up on, but I probably died on that thing 100 times before I got through it. But for the most part, like I said, this game pretty much just controls you. And it's interesting, too, because it's named Polybius, which is there's an urban legend attached to Polybius, and it's about government mind control in an arcade game. But I don't want to get into all that. But very much a fitting title for this game, because you zone in on it and you don't think about your ship. You don't think about anything. You're just trying to play, and it just works for whatever reason. Very well done game by Llamasoft. And Alex, I don't know if you've played it or not. Did you try Polybius?
No, it's the one that obviously I need to try out. So that's what this little topic's all about. This is finding games that you might not have played, and this is one that I've missed. So I'll definitely add it to my list of games to try out.
One thing I will add is the which we didn't talk about is the audio. Like you talked about the music, but even the audio cues, man, there's some weird shit going on in there. Like it's got sounds like old AOL dial-ups and just weird just weird noises. It's not bad. It's good with the music. It's just everything about it. It's just a audio and visual treat. And I would say that at 1549 for sure is definitely worth picking up, I would say.
Yeah. There's a lot of arcade sound effects in it, like retro arcade sound effects. Sounds a lot like a 1981 arcade game. And as you go through it, and the visual aspect is adding layers into it as you go, so is the audio. And it's exactly what you're saying. There's a lot of weird stuff in there. You'll notice sometimes you'll be hitting these gates correctly, and it'll go, "That's right. Amen. Amen. That's right." And yeah, it's really cool. And Alex, definitely 100% think that you should try this. Give it more than a few goes, and you'll notice that exactly what we're saying about how you start to zone in on it. But don't give too much thought about what you're shooting. Just hold the button down and pay attention to where you're going, and you're going to have a load of fun with this one.
That's what I was going to say about Paradise Decay's video in the beginning. I did the same thing. You're just like pushing a couple times, and I'm like, why am I like, this is hard? And then I realized, oh shit, I can just hold this thing down. Why would you not always? Because there's so much shit coming at you. You better have it held down, or you're not going to survive.
Yeah, I felt bad because I actually talked PD into trying this game, and then when I saw him playing it, I was talking to the television screen like, no, man, just hold it down. Just hold it down. So, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay. Anything else you want to say?
Play it. Everyone play it.
Play it.
It's definitely worth it, for sure.
It's worth your time.
Look at the screen right there. Look at that.
Yeah,
that shit is crazy.
Why would you not?
It's making me trip balls just watching a 2D screen of it. So
Yeah.
in VR, it must be pretty insane.
Especially if you're high. It's really cool if you're high. So.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to my first game, which is Downward Spiral Horror Station. This is a game that I actually played last week. Justin Mainfan recommended this to me. I did actually hear about it before, but when you watch we see this all the time in VR, where you watch a 2D screen or watch a 2D video, and the game doesn't look like much. But then when you actually get in there in VR, it was surprisingly good-looking game. It's really got some really good lighting, really good atmosphere. There's volumetric lighting. You can play it co-op as well, but I actually played it single player. It's available on PSVR and on Steam, so you can play it on PC or PlayStation VR as well. The premise of the game is basically you're on this space station and the AI is taken over, and you're trying to get to the AI to shut it down, to stop it from doing what it's doing, and you float around in zero G. So you're in zero gravity. You can, if anyone's played Lone Echo, you'll know what this is like. But basically, you can grab hold of any object and you can kind of push yourself off. But the thing is with this game, you don't really use that much. You get a grappling gun quite early on, and you fire that grappling gun onto surfaces, and then it pulls you in. So you just you can fire it off, and you pull in and fire it off. One of the main criticisms is probably that it's a little bit slow, and sometimes when you get into some firefights with these robots that you have to shoot, you feel like a sitting duck because you just don't move fast enough. But luckily, probably about an hour and a half into the game, you get like this thruster gun, which is a lot faster, and that solves that problem. The gunplay is really good as well. You get loads of different guns. They're supposed to be like like nail guns and stuff. They're supposed to be like work tools, but they're guns. You've got a scoped like pistol, a single fire pistol, like a Uzi, shotgun. Yeah, there's quite a lot, and as you go through the game, it keeps giving you new stuff. It's quite sad. The game design is really good in this. I felt kind of reminded me a little of like an old school Doom game in some ways, where you're going through these corridors, you've got to find these key cards or tapes, and then you've got to like progress to the next area, and then you've got these robots that come at you, and you've got to shoot them. The guns feel really solid. They feel like they've got a good amount of power to them. And when you fire them, because you're in zero G, there's like a delay to sometimes you have to lead your shots, and it's just got a really cool feel to it. And it's one of the game that I was really surprised how much I enjoyed it. And I just played it like 3 nights, just bang, bang, bang until I finished. It took me about 4 hours to finish it. It has got co-op as well, which I'd like to maybe jump in with co-op at some point. But even single player, it's a ton of fun. I really loved it, and it's definitely worth checking out. Roots, I think you've tried this one. You played this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't finished it though. I definitely would be interested in going into co-op because I think it was fun by itself, and two co-ops so much more fun. Yeah. But I didn't know there was a thruster gun, so that's kind of interesting to me because I think that's cool that it's slow then in the beginning because it sets that pace that it gives you that makes that thruster gun that much more of an incentive, right? Makes it better.
Yeah, it builds it up quite well. Like you get more and more powerful guns. My favorite combination was this three. You've got your thruster gun in one hand. And like so wherever you point, you fly, and then you've got a shotgun which has got like 3 shells, and then you flip it down and flip it back up to reload it. And I really enjoyed just like you've got an enemy coming at you, thrusting off, bang, 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 shooting your 3 shots, reload, change direction, and it felt really good. The combat really came into its own once you got that thruster gun, and you could move around a bit more freely. Or sometimes you could like put your gun away. Just hang on to a thing and like pull yourself in and out of cover, and it just felt a really satisfying. The gunplay, the gameplay was satisfying. The progression felt satisfying. I think the only criticism really would be the environments are probably a little bit samey. They do throw things out. Sometimes you've got to go outside and go from one airlock to another airlock and things like that. But overall, I suppose you're on a space station. They're not going to redesign every area to look different, so it kind of fits with the theme. But there's some really good volumetric lighting. They've got lights with mist coming through it, and it had like an alien kind of vibe, the alien film vibe with the Nostradamus, and there's Nostradamus, the ship on there, and sometimes I felt like it felt almost like a horror game in atmosphere. I was expecting a xenomorph to come flying off the walls at me or something, but it was a really cool game. I highly recommend. You can pick this up on a sale for really cheap, like $7 or something. Well worth your time. Yeah, I won't say any more on that because we will probably review this at some point. But yeah, it's definitely worth picking up, and it's a game that doesn't get enough. I think it's more popular on the PSVR, but definitely on the PC VR side of things. It's only got like 50 reviews. And it's on 2D. You can play it flat as well. So 50 reviews for a game that's flat as well as VR is pretty poor, and it definitely deserves more recognition.
Did it feel like Red Matter and Lone Echo had a baby? And maybe something with guns as well. Like I've kind of felt like as far as weapons and enemies, like that could have been made Lone Echo better. Like,
oh man, this game in so many ways is better than Lone Echo.
Mm-hmm.
If you take Liv, the Liv out of Lone Echo, that character you interact with, that game would be very empty. There wouldn't be much in there. So if they can take Lone Echo 2, have that and have combat in there and have this kind of satisfying moving around with the zero gravity and combat and thrusters and everything, it would be awesome. So yeah, take the best elements of this and the best elements of Lone Echo. Hopefully Lone Echo 2 is going to be like this, basically. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a really cool game. I recommend it. I don't think you've tried it, Wes, have you?
No, but I will say, I'll echo what you said a moment ago. This game, even though I haven't played it, I do know that it ported to PlayStation VR very well. I watched some reviews on it from some trusted sources, and everybody pretty much universally raves about how good this game ported. So,
yeah, so check it out. PSVR, PC. It's well worth the money. Downward Spiral Horror Station. Okay, so we'll move on to Roots, your second game. What have you decided?
All right, my second game is PlayStation VR exclusive as well. It's from Tin Man Games, and it sells for $20, which I think is definitely worth the price of admission. It's Table of Tales, the Crooked Crown. Now, this game, to me, pretty much is Dungeons and Dragons in VR. It's everything that I would imagine playing a Dungeons and Dragons game with a narrator or a dungeon master, which this bird is. You know, and it's just done so well. The story alone is weaved just phenomenally. And the amount of choices you get to make and decisions, and just like this table, it comes to life and you get to watch everything, this whole thing happening in front of you. You're in somebody's attic. I think it's a relative or something. And you do something to this table, you open it up, and this starts to unfold. And so you're introduced to 4 different characters. And what I like is the actual RPG of it. Like, it's literally turn-based, and as you're going along, you'll have decisions you have to make. Like, I came to a point in my journey where there was 4 people I had control over, and the ship was about to get hit by a big wave, and there was 3 handhelds or places to hold on to. So somebody's going to die, and it tells me you choose. So I had to pick them up and throw them off. And so I thought that was cool. And then it went into detail about the characters. There's 24 encounters you go through, and each one will shape, you know, you have different choices that shape different ways. I mean, just one, you've got 4 characters. So one of those characters, I don't even know who the hell that person is. But you actually have things you can do, like abilities that you'll have cards, and so you'll go up to an enemy and you have to put the card on them, and it'll do damage, like 2 damage to them, or you know, you can help a friend with healing them, or you actually develop different, when you do different, you finish different areas, they'll get you a new card, and you get to choose one of 3. And like one of my main guys that I like, Horatio, he's got a feigned death, and I can't tell you how many times that saved the party's life, because you can revive your guys as they get attacked. And I'm not kidding you. Like in my Let's Play, I actually, at the end of it, I died, and I went back in and played some more recently. But it gets harder and harder, and you actually have to start making decisions that make sense. Just like any other role-playing game. And what's cool is each player has like different abilities. That, like, there's one chick that I have that she's like a warrior. So if I pick her for something that's going to be battle-based, she'll have better odds to succeed. Now, when I say odds, you actually have dice that you roll. So like one of my guys, he's really stealthy, so I had to sneak past these guards, and so I chose him. And so you're hoping for a good roll, and then you can go through. And if you don't get that good roll, you might get into a battle that you'd like to avoid. And one of the other things that I think is really cool is you can actually play a mode with your friends where one person is the villain and the 3 other players are heroes, and they do a dominance and turn-based battle to the death. So I thought that was pretty cool. So just everything about this, it's watching a story be weaved in front of you with a narrator, dungeon master, and then like I said, just everything about it. I really loved it. I don't think either one of you, well, I know you haven't tried it, Alex, but Wes, if you get a chance to check this out, I think your kids would love this. As a matter of fact, I love this game so much that one, I'm rambling about it, but 2, I went into a customer's house this week, and like, I'm always looking around, and I saw PlayStation VR. I'm like, oh, PlayStation VR, you know. And so I started going into it, and I was talking to the kids, and I was asking them what their favorite games were. I told the mom that this was my favorite game, and she was looking it up on her phone, and it just was really cool. So I definitely would say, if for $20, if you like Dungeons and Dragons or anything that's RPG, it is done so well, and I haven't heard many, but almost anybody talk about it. So this, I would classify, considering it just came out a month ago, is definitely going under the radar and should be checked out by Wes today. No, just kidding.
Now, I will say this. I'm normally not into these tabletop type deals, but this one specifically looks very interesting because of the way that you have branching narratives and the story is built. It's never the same game twice when you go through it, which is really interesting and cool looking to me. So maybe one day I will check it out.
Yeah, maybe if it's on sale, right?
Right. Yeah. Because I want to say screw the devs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just joking. That was joking.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Okay.
Yeah, fuck the devs. No.
Fuck the police. Right. Wes, do you want to talk about your second game?
Sure. My second game is a game I actually spoke about recently, but I feel like it kind of is getting a bad rap in the larger world, and that game is Immortal Legacy: The Jade Cipher. It's a game that I'm playing through on my channel right now, and I've been playing it off and on over the last few weeks. And I won't go into a bunch of detail because, like I said, I've already talked about this game before. But wow, man, this game keeps getting better. This is a first-person shooter game. It's from Viva Games, which is a Chinese developer, and it was funded by Sony's China Hero project. So it's a PSVR exclusive, but it's a first-person shooter action adventure game with some sci-fi elements to it. So when you start out the game, like I said before, it's a lot like an Uncharted game. You're going through mountain passes. You're fighting these mercenary type people. And as you get a little further into it, you find out that they're actually looking for a relic with supernatural powers. And as you go through the game, you start to descend down into these mines, and the people disappear. And I don't want to give too much away, but other things are there for you to deal with, and it's terrifying. And the reason I wanted to talk about it, because when this game came out, you know, this game uses move controllers, and the big gripe with the move controllers at first is that there's no thumbsticks on them to do locomotion with. So there was no one set way to do locomotion with the move controllers. But over time, games developed a pretty much standardized system of using the buttons to locomote around these games, and they're all fairly similar the way that they're set up. So now when you get these games, it really isn't so much of a problem anymore. Everyone who has experience with PSVR can pretty much move around these games easily now with the move controllers. But when this game came out, it has its own button configuration that is unlike any other that has come before it. And what that means is when you get in these high intensity gunfights on this game, you're pushing a button to move that isn't mapped to be a movement button. So guys are shooting you, and then you press a button, and all of a sudden your inventory pops up, and you're getting killed. And it's very, very frustrating. And it put a lot of people off when this game came out, myself included. Side note, the developer announced last week that the alternative button configuration patch has been submitted to Sony, and once it gets the nod from Sony quality approval, quality assurance, the game will be updated, and there will be some options with the movement. But that said, I don't think that I'll change a thing when this thing gets updated. After you get used to the button configuration on it, it makes a lot of sense, and it's very comfortable. So I think changing back now would probably be uncomfortable and would be hard to do, because the way it works, this game is very much based on dual wielding weapons, and the movement is set up around that mechanic. So if you go back to an older style button configuration, it won't work out very well. The movement, it works. Just give it some time. And this is a very, very high quality game with a lot of content. I've probably played 4 hours in it at least right now, and I don't think I'm near the end yet. There's a lot of new mechanics in it that I haven't seen in games before. Interesting scenarios, and there's a action/horror vibe to it that is unique to this game. The audio-visual aspects of it are better than you would expect from a studio of this size, and this may be one of the best FPS games, adventure games that I've played on PlayStation VR. Very good game, worth full price. Do not wait until it goes on sale. I wholeheartedly recommend that you buy this game today and just play through the growing pains of learning the button scheme on this. Very good game and definitely underrated.
Have you checked this out, Roots, yet, or are you waiting?
No, actually, I didn't. It looks good. It wasn't there a game that they say it's like
It's like a cross. It's like a cross
Uncharted.
between Uncharted and later on it starts to incorporate elements of Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, I definitely want to check it out for sure. I have not. I probably. Well, I don't want to go against Wes's rules. I don't want to wait for a sale. But I just dropped $800 on a 2080, so I think I'm going to have to wait a little bit. Yeah, it looks really good.
They are patching it as well, I believe, with the more traditional controls. Yeah, but I think there's issues with that because obviously with the dual wielding, I think that's what makes it difficult, because if you're using your left hand to move, then you can't aim while you're moving, so I think the system that they've created actually solves that problem, but it's just because people are so used to the standard that's been set by like Skyrim and etc. that people are just struggling. I understand where they're coming from, because we're going to do a review of Trover Saves the Universe, but there's a bit of a thing with that where if you're using the touch controllers and you have to grab these items to kind of pull them around and move them around, I really struggled with that to the point where I end up going back to a gamepad. But so if you've got like a new mechanic that you're not used to, it can feel a little bit unintuitive. But I think it's definitely one. If I had a PSVR, I'd want to check it out. It looks like amazing. It always amazes me what devs can do with the hardware they've got. I mean, bearing in mind what the PSVR is, the PS4 is, and they can still get things like Blood and Truth and like this to look as good as they can. So, when we get PS5, wow, wait.
That's the real elephant in the room, right, Alex? Is that like when's the PlayStation VR coming to the UK for you?
2 to 3 years. I don't know. Anyway, that's Immortal Legacy. Yeah, definitely another. I'm not sure I think it's done quite well sales wise, but I think Wes included it more because of the flack that it gets. People dismissing it because of the controls, and it definitely looks like. I think if you get used to the controls, then it feels probably even better than it would do if you had the more traditional controls, because you can dual wield and move at the same time. But yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll say this: I'm enjoying this game so much that after I finish it, I'll probably do a long form review of it, and I'll talk specifically about what the problems were with the controls and why it makes sense to have them the way they are at that time.
We'll do a proper review at some point in the future, but that's another recommendation, another game you should definitely not miss out on. Okay, so we'll go on to the last game, which is my last game, which I've actually forgotten what my game is.
Conductor.
Oh, Conductor. Yeah, that's right. I've forgotten what it was. Yes, Conductor. This is actually unfortunately not available on PSVR. This is a Steam VR PC VR only game. This isn't. I don't know. Some people might not say it's a hidden gem because it was quite popular when it came out. But this is like an old 2016 release, I believe, one of the early VR games. So a lot of people probably don't know about this game, and it's probably gone under their radar. It's a puzzle game. I'll get that out of the way. It's a teleport only. I'll get that out of the way as well. But I didn't really mind. There's certain games I can tolerate. That this game, you're teleporting around, but you're picking things up and you've got to move objects and things. And it was okay. I could tolerate it for this particular game. And I really enjoyed it. The unique concept of this one is basically that you are on a train. So you're on this track and you've got to actually go up this track. And as you're going up, there's obstacles in your way and you have to get off the train and then figure out a way to move the obstacles to carry on the train, basically. But it's all interactive with your hands. You don't have hands. You have these little, like I say, it's an early VR game, so you have to bear that in mind. But to move the train, you have to actually physically get pieces of coal, put them in the fire, use your hands to increase your speed. You've got like pressure gauges which you've got to keep moving up and down so that the engine doesn't overheat. So it's quite, the actual movement where you move around through the world is quite cool. And then again, you have to stop the train, get out. You get a gravity gun, which is basically the same thing as in you can see on the video there, them moving and having to strike a match and light the fire and everything. And you get a gravity gun, which is basically a copy of Half-Life 2 gravity gun. So then you have to use that to solve certain puzzles. Like there's a car in the way of it on the tracks. You have to get the gravity gun and pull the car out of the way. And then it just gets more and more difficult as you go on. It's not a massive game. It's about 2 hours long. But I think it's like £5.99, I think. So it's probably about $7-8. But it goes on sale and you can pick it up. I think I paid like £2.50 for this, which is like dirt cheap. 2 hours worth of really cool puzzle game. It's got like a bit of a story to it as well, but the puzzles are really cool. I just like the movement mechanic with the train and the way that the whole thing revolves around you basically going down this track and trying to get from one point to another, but you've got to keep getting out, moving these obstacles before you can move on. I don't think either of you've tried this, have you?
I did actually. I tried it last night, and it was pretty cool. My first thing, I'm watching this Let's Play, he didn't put enough coal in there. No. I found that out right off the bat because I put like 5 or 6 pieces in, and I'm like, all of a sudden my train just stopped.
Yeah, you have to keep putting the coal in like as it's going. Keep chucking lumps in as you go in.
Well, then I put too much coal in after because I threw like 20 in, and then I ended up running into some thing that was on the track. And but yeah, it was really cool. It was I didn't know, like that's one of the reasons why like with Headmaster, Conductor, like different games, like I look at the name and I'm like, what could this be? I'm thinking either it's going to be a train conductor or maybe I'm going to conduct a symphony. I doubt that, but you just don't know. And then to get into it and say, wow, like Wes, I saw you nodding your head, and I didn't do that either. I just heard static. That's very disappointing. But Wes, you said same thing. I had no idea this game existed because I came into PCVR a year ago, and I would imagine you're probably the same time. I didn't know that this game was ever out. So the games that came out in 2016 are usually gonna, I would imagine, unless they're huge, are gonna fall under the radar for a good portion of players, But it was definitely cool.
Yeah, I've never heard of this game before Alex put it on the rundown there. As a PSVR gamer coming into PC, I had heard of a lot of PC games, but most of which were games that had been announced as future ports. So this game definitely off my radar. But if you say it's good, maybe we'll give it a shot, huh?
Yeah.
I think it's worth it. I enjoyed it. Like it's not massive. It's about like 2 hours, but I mean you can pick it up for cheap. Even full price, it's still cheap at $5.99 or whatever it is dollars. And obviously, if you get it on a sale, it's definitely there is actually a package with another game called Adobe, which is made by the same developer, which is like just a straightforward kind of escape the room type game. It was okay. I think personally, just get this myself on its own, and it's definitely one of the cool puzzle games that's probably going to get missed by a lot of people because it's such an old game. We've got a lot of new people coming into VR, and it's definitely worth. Some of the older games are obviously not going to stand up to today's standards, and there's teleport and everything, and the graphics are a bit basic, but just the puzzles and the mechanics and everything of this were cool, and I definitely think it's worth even today picking up.
Yeah, you get to have a conductor's hat. Like, who doesn't want to wear a conductor's hat? You know what I mean? Like,
and you can pull the thing on the train.
You can do the whistle and everything. Yeah. So
you can blow my whistle. Yep. Okay, so I think that wraps up this very first topical discussion. If you've got any ideas for topics you want us to cover, then make sure to put them in the comments. We've got loads of ideas. We're not going to run out anytime soon, but if people have got an idea of something that they want us to try and talk about, find games in a particular genre or whatever you want, and let us know. Hit the like, subscribe. If you're new to the channel and you've just found this video, hopefully you found this interesting. This is definitely not, we don't do short videos. We do tend to go on a bit and go into more detail, but that's the selling point for us. We don't want to do like these little things where you barely talk about something. We want to go into detail and give people more of an idea of what are they getting into. Check out the Discord. We'll put that in the link. We've got a little Discord that we've got going on. Jump in there. We're always in there. We've got a few people in there talking games. It's definitely worth checking out, and we will speak to you guys later.
Bye.
Take it easy.